Hi guys, welcome to another video and welcome to a far too hot Northumberland. Hottest day of the year so far apparently. Obviously nowhere near as warm in Northumberland as it is in the rest of the country, but still way too hot for me. And anyway, so I've come out, I've bought out the mystery camera which I mentioned in the last video, and I've headed to some woodland. I'm actually heading to a waterfall. It seems to be clouding up a little bit, which I'm keeping my fingers crossed for, because that's great for waterfall photography. Because it helps me to achieve the sort of long shutter speeds that I like to have that sort of milky water effect. But it's still going to be a bit of a struggle. I'm going to have to see how we get on. But anyway, I'm filming myself using the new mystery camera. And just in case you haven't guessed, it's actually a little Fujifilm camera. It's a Fujifilm X-E4, which is a really compact body, especially coupled with a 16 to 80mm, which is a 24 to 120mm equivalent full frame lens. And it's a really nice compact little unit, which is great for hiking, which is the reason why I've got this camera. But the question is, can it replace my Sony A7Riii Mark III for landscapes? And the truth is, it's very complicated, but so far it's all looking very positive. Anyway, let's carry on walking and let's get to the waterfall. Now before we get to the waterfall, I thought I'd tell you a little bit about why I'm actually trying a Fuji out, And I'm by no means a newcomer to the world of Fujifilm X cameras. Back in the day I was actually a Fujifilm X photographer, so I understand these cameras. I've been there since the start. I had the XE1, I had the XT1, I've had an X Pro 2, I've even had a GFX medium format, I've tried loads of them. And I have to say that they've all been brilliant but flawed. And this has been my problem with Fuji. They're not great all-round cameras. They're brilliant for certain things, but if you put them into an all-round situation, which I find my cameras need to do, they've never been quite there. Take my Sony for example, my A7Riii Mark III. I can take that to a wedding, I can take it to a commercial job. I know it's going to nail focus, and I know it's going to get the shot straight away. Meanwhile, the Fuji probably will nail focus, but it's going to take a little bit longer, and then it's going to be sporadic, and then we can talk about reliability. Because out of all the cameras I've owned over the last 20 odd years, and it's been a few, way too many, I hate to say, but the most unreliable brand has been Fujifilm. I've had 3 Fujifilm cameras go pop on me. I had one go pop on me in the middle of New Zealand, when I was literally in the middle of nowhere, and I lost shots. Fujifilm New Zealand were very good. They organised a replacement for me, they got me sorted. But it's just a bit worrying when you feel like you can't actually trust the one camera to last you a trip, Hopefully these are one-offs. Perhaps I've just been very unlucky, but it does make me a little bit wary about solely trusting a Fujifilm as my only camera system. Hence why at the moment I've still got a Sony, and to be honest I think it will stop that way for a while. But there is one thing that the Fujis have got which Sony haven't. Well, actually 2 things. There's soul, they're beautiful cameras to use, and there's those colours. It's true what they say about Fujifilm colours, you just cannot match them with any other camera. Okay, this is a little bit disappointing. We're at the waterfall, and as you can see, there's a lot of storm damage behind, which is, it's back to the big storms, which I think we had in November, which have caused a lot of chaos throughout Northumberland, to be honest, and unfortunately it's brought loads of trees down. So it used to be quite wooded above it, and they're all down, and there's probably stuff come downstream as well. All in all, it's sort of killing the shot a little bit for me. Which is, it's really gutted. But it's nature, this is what happens. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to find a spot, see if I can compose something, and then I'm going to sit down and have a little chat with you about why I've reconsidered Fuji, and if I think I'm going to keep it. Well, I'm absolutely gutted, but this is nature, it's that ever-changing cycle. It's all natural damage, but it's normally such a picturesque spot, and it's one of my favourite spots for photography in Northumberland, to be honest. So I'm going to put up a few photos now I've taken in the past, and then we'll head back and I'll catch up with you en route. Oh, honestly, I'm still gutted. I don't know why, I just don't. Anyway, guys, let's talk about my complicated Fuji relationship. What do I like so much about Fuji cameras, you know? We've already ascertained that they're not really very reliable, and the autofocus is now a lot better than it used to be, in all fairity. The days of the XT1, it was like dreadful, honestly, just dreadful. But now, you know, the autofocus is there, it's all good. So what is it about Fuji which is just so likeable? You know, and the film simulations has to be a big one. Now, I know some of you would argue, just shooting raw, Jason, shooting raw and process to taste. Well, you know, that's all very well. But what I'm finding with my Sony files is I shoot in raw and I try and process to taste, and I don't get a file looking like I would straight out of the camera with a Fuji. You know, Fuji shooting raw, put in Capture One, select a film simulation, and I'm nearly there, which is just wonderful, and that's the way I want to work. I don't want to spend hours behind a computer, really, sort of tweaking this and that, just to try and make my full frame high resolution camera look like an APS-C camera. You know, why would I do that? And that brings me nicely to the APS-C argument, you know. Jason, it's only an APS-C size sensor, surely you need full frame or bigger. Well, you know, I've used medium format GFXs, so I know what a medium format file looks like, and honestly, I used to shoot the XT3 alongside the GFX 50S, and sometimes you'd be hard pressed to tell the difference in the actual final images, and that's the blunt truth. You know, in tricky light situations, yes, a bigger sensor is always going to be a bit better, and you know, yes, the colours are going to be slightly nicer tones and things like that. But honestly, real world use, you know, for the average punter that's going to buy my photos, they're not going to know the difference. So for me, I've come back to Fuji for the film simulations and the size of the camera. Because ultimately the camera is very small. The XE4 is a lovely compact camera. Now, interestingly, I think it's a touch bigger than my A7C. But the lenses are a lot smaller. So that means I can put this lens on, and that's a good hiking option. And the weight's really light. And to give you an idea how light it is, it's probably about 600 grams, probably a bit more, lighter than my A7Riii and 24-105 f4. So for me that's a win, because if I'm walking miles like I did last week, I did a sort of 15-mile hike overnight camp last week, and honestly having a smaller camera made life just so much more enjoyable. And for me, that's what it's about. But could Fuji replace my Sony for everything? And I think the honest answer is no, it's just not there. But for landscapes, well, it's complicated, because I think it actually could. And the thing that's going to let it down really is going to be the video side of things. Because whilst if I'm got it static on a tripod and I'm behind the camera filming, it's beautiful. I love the look of the actual finished footage. But as soon as I'm in front, well, you judge yourself. You know, all of this has been filmed with the XE4. It seems to be behaving today, but sometimes I see this weird exposure stepping going on, and what I've found myself having to do is more and more take control of the exposure so it doesn't do that. Because when you put it in auto ISO, it just ranks backwards and forwards, the depth of field changes, it just looks a bit odd. But as a compact, relatively cheap, walk around hiking camera, it is really hard to beat the XE4 with the 16 to 80mm f4 lens. Okay, I'm going to address the one elephant in the room with Fujifilm, and that's Fujifilm and Lightroom. Honestly, when you import your Fujifilm files into Lightroom, they generally are incredibly disappointing. The detail's gone. There's just something's not right. It's generally crap. So what I have found is really by using the enhanced details, then your Fuji files look brilliant, you know. And I've compared the Fuji files with my Sony A7Riii files, and honestly, apart from the resolution, the detail's brilliant. It's really nice. And so, yeah, it's something to keep in mind that if you're a Lightroom user and you're going to buy a Fujifilm camera, be prepared to spend a little bit extra time on that sort of post-processing, because you are going to have to use enhanced details, or you're going to have to use something like Capture One to, you know, pull a bit more out. Because what I generally do actually is I'll put them into Capture One, process, and then bring them into Lightroom and do the last bit on it. But you know, really either or, just be prepared that really out of the box, Fuji and Lightroom doesn't work. Okay, so even though there's all these negative points about Fuji cameras, you know, there are a lot of positives, and I think above all, they're just fun to use. So where does this leave the Sony A7R3? Well, I'll tell you where it leaves it. It has been sold. I no longer own the A7R3, but I haven't gone fully Fuji. It would be crazy for me to do. I have commercial work, I have weddings, and I'm not saying the Fujis couldn't do it. I just think there's better tools for the job. So I've got myself a Sony A7 IV, and that's going to be my workhorse of a camera, and this little Fuji that's filming me at the moment is going to be my fun camera, and it's going to be the one you probably see me using most on this channel. So hopefully this video explains why I've taken the plunge again, and why I've taken the crazy step to buy another Fuji camera, and you know, hopefully I won't live to regret it. I don't think I will. I love this little camera. It's a great little camera, and you know, it's my camera. It's the camera for me, and what more can I say? I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please consider subscribing to the channel. Maybe give it a thumbs up, leave a comment if you're a Fuji owner and you know you want to tell me where I'm going wrong, or if you just want to tell me I'm mad, whatever. Just leave some comments, get in touch, subscribe, and I'll see you again for another video, which may or may not be shot on the Fuji.